Hi. What I wanted to show you in this video is what we went over today in class, the 16th of September. So what we did is we looked at some more tables with x and y values. So if we had something like 3, 4, 5, 6, we found another way today to be able to think about what we would get if we went back to 0 without going back to 0. We want to try to minimize our work. So if we have here 20, 22, 24, 26, that what we saw that we really liked was that this here, we're still getting this plus 2 every time, so we know that this is our coefficient, so we know we have y equals 2x plus something. So we said, well, wait a minute, we have to really be able to figure out what that plus something is, and we know that we could go back to 0 in order to figure that out, but a way to do that a way to get to that idea without doing all that writing is that we can use these values here and pick a pair of points in our column to plug it in. So for example, let's take the 3 and the 20 just because the numbers are the smallest. And instead of having the 20, now I'm going to use this 3. Instead of having the y, I'm going to have the 20 equals, the 2 is my coefficient, the x here is the 3 that matches with, plus something. And I can just now go ahead and solve it like a regular old equation. 20 equals 6 plus something. I can subtract 6 from both sides. And so 14 equals my unknown value, which is also my constant. So, I now know that if I went back in time that my y would be 14 when x is 0. But also, I know now that I have y equals 2x plus 14, which is so awesome. So instead of going back and doing all these tables and, making the table be much more expanded, I now have it right there. And we can check it and make sure it works with everything. So we can say like 5 and 24. 24 times 2 is 48. Oh, sorry. Sorry about that. So 2 times 5, here we go, is 10. 10 plus 14 is 24, which is my y value. Let's try another one. So let's take another one here. So now I have x and y that I could say maybe 100, 101, 102, 103, and I could say that I have maybe 20, 30, 40, and 50. So one of the things we're going to notice first of all is that my coefficient is 10 because these are all plus 10s here. So I have y equals 10x plus something. Again, I'd have to go all the way back to when x is equal to 0. So to prevent us from having to do all that extra writing out, which we really don't want to do, instead we're just going to use our table and plug it in. So let's use the 100 and the 20 as our place to do that. So instead of having a y now, my y in this case is going to be 20. My x is going to be 100, so 10 times 100, plus question mark. So I have 20 equals 1,000 plus question mark. And then I can move the 1,000 over. And I can get negative 980 equals question mark. So my new equation is going to be y equals 10x minus 980. And again, I could check that with any of the other values. I could check it with this one here. So that would be 400, so that would be 100 times 10 times 102 minus 980 equals 40. I can check any coordinate points I want and do that. On the next screen, I'm going to show you something else we talked about in class. So we also in class talked about this idea that what if instead I had this as my table? I want you to pay really close attention here. So initially we'd say, oh, they're going up by 10. But then we looked over here and saw that these are jumping up by 2, or as Lucas called them, the gaps were 2. So if we wanted to, instead of getting, I don't really want to find out what it is for 2 gaps. I want to find out what it is for 1 gap. So if I have 2 gaps, and that means it increases by 10, that for 1 gap, I'm going to go up by 5. So I know now that these are all going to be, each time my coefficient, sorry for my terrible handwriting, is going to be 5. So So I think the thing is we have to really slow down with our thinking here, because we have to be really careful of what this is changing by before we start analyzing that. So that's what the homework is going to be tonight. Post any questions you have on Modo, and hope to see you tomorrow.